You're gonna be okay. So I have to remake this video because the line that I'm using for the microphone is crappy. So it was kind of like a weird in and out. So redoing this, we're gonna talk about how to do relaxation techniques. All right, so the first thing that I want to talk about when it comes to relaxation techniques is how do they work in general, to me anyway. Like I said, I'm not an expert, just somebody who's spent a lot of time with meditation and learning how to cope with things, gone through a lot of stuff in my life. For me, understanding what meditation and relaxation really boils down to occupying space in your brain so that there is nothing else that can be, thought about. So it's basically, it's like that zone or that, tempo that people get into when they do things. For instance, when you're doing, playing your favorite sport or doing your favorite, hobby, sometimes you have to lose track of time. That's kind of being in the zone, and what happens is during that time is you're not really thinking about anything else. You're thinking about that one particular thing. And that, to me, is really what meditation and relaxation is about. It's about doing something that takes your mind off of things and allows you to recalibrate and rebalance where you are. So I use a relaxation technique, which is basically a combination of breathing and movement. It's very, very simple, but it does take some, sort of skill to get kind of used to training your brain to concentrate on one thing. And that's kind of where a lot of the issues that people have, like if you're impatient and you're wondering, how do I do this technique, and you want to skip ahead, you're already losing. It's that concentration of trying to focus on something and not be impatient and not, trying to find the shortcuts, because there really is no shortcuts to focusing and concentration. There's no shortcuts. It's just a matter of, learning to do it, training yourself to do it, and then continuing that, that skill and keeping at it. So when we talk about concentration, it's very similar to anything that we do. I've been in martial arts my entire life, and that's one of the things that it's really taught me, is that when we do our forms, our kata, or whatever word you use with it, basically a set pattern of motions, and we learn to breathe with those motions. And when you're doing those forms, you're not really thinking about anything else. If you are, maybe you're not really concentrating. But so when we're doing those forms, you are doing a specific breathing pattern, trying to remember the form, remember all of the body motions to it. And that really, to me, is a type of meditation, because meditation is really clearing your mind. And, by clearing your mind, that helps you kind of push things out of your mind and, kind of recheck your body and your mind and kind of get that connection, reconnect that whole thing. So what I do is, as I do a specific breathing pattern with a specific motion, and when you repeat things, your brain starts to remember, oh, when I do this, I do this. Kind of like some fighters in martial arts, when they go compete, they've competed so often, they've already trained their brain to say, okay, well, this is, what I need to be doing, and their brain is going to calibrate for that specific thing. And a lot of us have these things and don't really realize that we have these things. So we tap into that, that brain power of, letting our body and mind sync, and remember that when we do a specific motion or action, it kind of goes back to all of the repetition that we've been doing with it. A good example is using a bell during meditation. That kind of triggers you into remembering, okay, well, I'm doing this specific meditation and I need to be breathing, and it's like a trigger. So if you always do the same thing, it helps you get better at it, and helps you kind of kickstart into that much quicker. So I've been doing it for years. So for me, all I have to do is like a couple simple motions. I have to think about it, like this is where I need to be, and then I just start relaxing because I'm already into that sort of motion. So with that, so we're going to talk about syncing the two things together and why. So when you're doing your breathing, breathing in is a growing motion, breathing out is a shrinking motion essentially. And it can be either way. You can do it any way you want to. This is how I do it. So when I breathe in, I put my hands up and you kind of open your lungs up. And then when you exhale, you kind of bring it back down together. So I do a specific count on the way up and out, and then I do a specific count on the way in, and then I hold my breath. And there's lots of different techniques for that and how many seconds. It really doesn't matter too much, as long as you can hold your breath and as long as you can maintain it. So you may tweak it to be, 5 seconds, 6 seconds, 4 seconds, depending on what your current, heart rate is or what your current status is. So if you're very anxious or kind of worried, your heart rate is going to be elevated. So your breathing pattern is going to be different. So you kind of tweak it a little bit. So I want to start with something very simple, very, very low count. So we're going to do a 4, 4, 4, right? So we're going to go 4 in, 4 out, and hold for 4. Now the holding is usually the hardest part if your heart rate is already up. So you might tweak that one a little bit more and more. So we're going to basically look like this. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you repeat, right? It's very simple, very straightforward. That holding the breath, you might knock that down to 2 or 3 seconds. And as your heart rate starts slowing down, you maybe add seconds onto that. So the reason why I have those 3 motions, you have to count in your head or even out loud for that matter. And that's why it's supposed to work, is because you're occupying your brain with 2 different things. So you don't have the space in your mind to be flooded with other things. So as you count and you're focusing on that rhythm and keeping it at a specific rhythm, that helps you to clear your mind and reset. So it basically looks like this, and you don't have to close your eyes. You don't have to look at anything specific. You just kind of zone out, and in your mind or out loud, you do the numbers. However, if you're exhaling or inhaling, you can't really do the numbers out loud. So it would look something like this. And that's pretty much it. It's very, 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 very simple. But it really helps. I mean, my heart rate is already, pumping from doing this video because I have a lot of anxiety for doing video. Basically looking at my face and I'm looking at myself, which is also bizarre for me. But it helps, and it's important to know that no matter how much you do this, it's not 100% because there's all kinds of variables. Like, are you, surrounded by people? Are you by yourself? Is there external, things happening? But the important thing is to keep doing it. We'll talk about meditation on a separate video, but that's more or less the crux of learning how to relax yourself and get through certain anxious times. If you have a different way of doing it, if you have other ideas or what it is that you do, comment below, let me know. I would love to hear what other people are doing. I mean, it's all a learning thing. So it's not like, this is one way of doing it. And if anybody tells you there's only one way to do things, then they're, obviously full of themselves. So don't listen to them. Disclaimer again, like if you feel like this is just absolutely not helping in any way, absolutely seek, a therapist, a counselor, and maybe there's something more that you need to be done. So that's it. You're going to be okay.